India has been considered a secular country, but we see a lot of division and political decisions mainly taken upon community and on religious basis. With the literacy rate going up, do you think that we'll have a shift in the dynamics?
You are being told of economic or political systems, but you are not those systems. How are votes casted? Do people really know stories fighting with each other? And why are stories fighting with each other? Because what was the Cold War? The capitalist story versus the communist story. The India-Pakistan thing, you might think it is about the waters, it is about this, or it is about Kashmir. It is actually a Hindu-Muslim problem. The Muslim story cannot agree with the Hindu story. The thing is, you could be deeply educated and yet very superstitious. But when it comes to the inner ignorance, model of education that we have just doesn't suffice.
Good evening, sir. I am Ayush from second year PGPSM. So India has been considered a secular country, but we see a lot of division and decisive decisions, political decisions mainly taken upon community and on religious basis. So how do you see in coming future these things changing, and with the literacy rate going up, do you think that we'll have a shift in the dynamics, or it'll be the same for the next 2 decades?
You see, literacy rate obviously must increase and reach 100%, but literacy alone won't help. First of all, literacy as we measure it is a very easy condition. When it comes to Indian metrics, it's a very easy condition. If you can just write your name in any language and read a few lines, you would be counted as literate. That hardly suffices. Secondly, when you talk of literacy, you would want to mean education. And education of the formal type, the outer type, education in which you study physics, chemistry, psychology, geography, history, finance, marketing, such things, right? None of that ever includes the self. None of that ever takes you back into yourself. The thing is, you are not the apple Newton saw. You're not the kings and queens of eras bygone, right? You are studying objects outside of yourself. You are being told of economic or political systems that exist today in India or elsewhere or have historically been. But you are not those systems. You are being taught of the chemicals and reagents, but you are not those chemicals. You are being taught of everything as if that is important. And the one thing that is absolutely never taught is the self, as if that is the least important thing. If you look around yourself, the auditorium where you're sitting, being the educated audience that you are, you'll find you know something about everything that you look at. The electronic gadgetry, you will be able to say something about it. Some of you might be coming, in fact, from the electronics engineering direction, and they'll know a lot. Even those who don't know a lot, they will know how to operate the machinery. You're sitting on these chairs and you'll know something about it. These clothes that you wear, you will know something about it. The walls, the arrangement, the cultural context. You read the newspapers and you know something about everything. Right? But how much do you know about yourself? And is that such an important thing that we compulsorily ignore it? And it is an important thing because all this that you are looking at, focusing on, studying, investing 20 years of your life in terms of formal education, all of these are important things, but they are just things. They are not you. They are your objects. They are not the subject that you are. And we put so much emphasis on knowing them. We even become super specialized. But we never know who we are, and that is important because this one that we are is the subject of all objects, is the experiencer of all objects. It is the one that accords meanings to all objects, be it history or an electronic gadget or a political system. Right? Someone sitting within, the self, the one that you call as I. He is the experiencer of everything that you study. But you never study the experiencer. You keep focusing on the experienced objects. And that's where the false kind of divisive religion steps in. Because you do not know who this I is. So religion comes in and gives you fancy stories about who you are. And one religion would give you one story, some other religion gives you another story, and because these are just stories, they can never agree with each other. Right? You will have your own stories, which is concepts and notions and traditions. And some other organized religion, some other organized stream has its own stories. And since they are stories, not facts, they will not match. Facts can tally with each other. Stories, they cannot tally with each other, or can they? You all can independently verify the acceleration due to gravity. And the numbers you come to will broadly agree. Right? Provided you have honestly measured the facts. But if I say, well, you just imagine how much this G constant is. Just imagine. Your imaginations are not going to agree with each other. Someone might say 10 to the power minus 44. And someone might say 10 to the power 20. And someone might say 8. And someone might say something else. And there is never going to be any agreement. And that is what you call as sectarian strife. Religion-based conflict. Stories fighting with each other. And why are stories fighting with each other? Because no one knows the truth. And why does no one know the truth? Because in our education, we are not focusing on the self. And the self is the most important thing to be studied because it is the thing of all things. It is the center of all things. It is who you are in your own eyes. And you ought to know. But you are never taught or never encouraged to know by yourself. So what rushes in to fill the vacuum? Organized religion. Giving you stories about who you are, what should be the purpose of your life, how you should live, eat, sleep, marry, worship. In absence of self-knowledge, all these things are then supplied by religion. How else will you know? How else will you know? When you should marry and whether you should marry, that question cannot be answered by your formal education. What will you do? How much should you earn? That again is not a question that your formal education can answer. What kind of friends to keep? And these are very important questions. Where to settle? Whether or not to have kids. Again, your formal education cannot answer these questions. That's where organized religion comes in. How to feel morally good, how to feel satisfied, how to feel at peace. It's a very important human need, but formal education does not take care of it. So finding that vacuum, all the old stories just rush in. And they tell you, you do all these things and you will be a do-gooder and God will be pleased and you'll be placed in heaven. Right? And one recommendation from one side, as we have been saying, will not agree with another religious recommendation from another side. So these two will fight. And then you look at the Middle East, what is happening? You'll think it's a geopolitical game. Fundamentally, its story is fighting with each other. Obviously, it would look very stupid if that is openly admitted. So the leaders will say, no, no, national security, this, that, oil, this. Not much of that strife could have survived had it not been for Jews versus Muslims. Or the India-Pakistan thing, you might think it is about the waters, it is about this, geopolitics, or it is about Kashmir. It is actually a Hindu-Muslim problem. Stories are fighting with each other. The Muslim story cannot agree with the Hindu story. The thing is, the Muslim needs the story because the Muslim does not know the truth. The Hindu needs the story because the Hindu does not know the truth. And these two stories will keep these two nations fighting. What was the Cold War? The capitalist story versus the communist story. And as we proceed in time, it becomes evidently clear that both the stories were deeply flawed. It's not as if capitalism prevailed over the other one. So technology or economic empowerment or education are not going to liberate you from the clutches of religious belief or even superstition. You could be deeply educated and yet very superstitious. Because the first superstition is the ego itself. What is superstition? To not know something yet believe in it, right? That is superstition. You do not know something and yet you believe in it. That's called superstition. The first thing that you believe in is your own existence. Existence not as the body, but as some inner being within the body. The body is a fact. Yes, the body is here. Hi. But the inner being you believe in, right? I, the self, the ego, as something inside the body is there. Now really, have you investigated? Have you questioned? But you believe in it. So superstition starts from here, irrespective of how educated you are. So many things that you feel compulsive about, are they not superstitions? If you are asked, how do you know? You won't be able to answer, but you believe in them. In fact, any of your beliefs, not just religious beliefs, any of your beliefs, if they are questioned deeply, you will find you have no basis. No basis. Look at your deep desires or deep beliefs or deep concepts about how the world is or how life should be. And if you are questioned, then the fourth question in the thread will be enough to frustrate you. You won't survive beyond that. You'll say, okay, why do you need that particular job? You'll give a reason. Counter question, again an answer. Counter question, again an answer. The fourth counter question, you'll be annoyed because you'll have no answer. That's a superstition then, right? You're believing in something without knowing why. How does education help? Obviously, education helps in terms of knowing the material world. Education helps when some Baba comes and says this particular river originates from the holy heavens, but you have studied geography and you know satellite imagery. So then you can counter the Baba by saying, no, this river does not come from the holy heavens, it comes from that particular glacier. And here is the image, here is the proof, here is how it all happens. To that extent, yes, education helps. But when it comes to the inner ignorance, the model of education that we have just doesn't suffice. Very, very educated people, and very unfortunately, you will find them extremely ignorant of themselves, and they could be very experienced, 40, 50 years of age, or 70, and holding very important public positions, might be double PhDs, and yet deeply ignorant of who they are, and hence, in the subtler term, very superstitious. Superstition is not just about believing in witchcraft or voodoo. Right? The moment you utter an unexamined statement about life, that is superstition. If you do not have 2 kids, life is incomplete. How is this not superstition? Please. How is this not superstition? And this is a superstition very prevalent in the educated fraternity. I must have a job that pays at least this much. How is this not superstition? How do you know? One must always be polite to the other. How exactly do you know? What defines superstition is the epistemic haze. You do not know where your belief comes from. You do not have proof of knowledge, and yet you insist on knowing. This epistemic haze we all carry, irrespective of how deeply educated we are.
Pranam Acharya ji. I am Rajesh Tanwar, student of Sustainable Management Program, IIM Lucknow. So my question is, when things go well, people often say that my faith has given strength to me, but the same faith crumbles when failures strike, often leaving them into the despairs. So doesn't it contradict that this faith is reliable or not? And in today's time, when nature is itself giving warning through disasters and climate change, what would be a real or good way to believe in the faith?
Again, it all starts with definitional lack of clarity. What people call as faith is just belief. And there is a reason why these two separate words exist. They are separate because they are not synonymous. Belief is not faith. If you look at the top wisdom books across the world, Some of them are religious scriptures. They define faith very clearly, very pointedly. Faith begins with knowing what is right, and then is about immersing into the right without care for consequences. Living rightly without fear of consequences is faith. Not just fear of consequences, not just fear of that any drunken man can have. You get drunk and you lose fear sometimes. It's about knowing what is right. And that knowledge frees you of fear. So you act and you are not caring for the results then. That is faith. And faith obviously cannot have a plural. So all this that you find in popular parlance, let us have an interfaith dialogue, or people of different faiths are mingling here. All that is very inaccurate usage of a very important word, faith. Belief is a different matter altogether. You can believe in something. And as they say, even a dead clock is right 2 times a day. So sometimes it will happen, what you believe in will seem to materialize, and then you will be very happy. And you won't realize you have just been fooled by randomness. By the way, there is a good book by this name. And the same belief, which has no basis to it, would often come crashing. And when it comes crashing, then you say, this is happening because of mysterious, mystical reasons that I cannot know of. Maybe God is not happy with me. Maybe I am being punished for my sins of the previous birth. Getting it? All of that is just shooting in the dark. The fact is that as human beings, you can never be satisfied with mere belief. You need the hard fact about the world, the universe as it is, and you need the hard fact about who you are. And when both of these are there, what you get is the truth. Even animals live in facts. They don't live in fancies. They can't know much, but when they can't know much, they just don't even want to imagine too much. But human beings are extremely imaginative, and a lot of that imagination is just a poor substitute to facts. We weave stories because earnestly, effortfully exploring the facts demands a price. We don't want to pay the price, right? How far is the sun from the earth? And you could say, well, some great angel 40 times as tall as Mount Everest covers the distance from sun to earth in 8 strides. So that's the distance between the sun and the earth. It took you just 7 seconds to come up with a cheap answer based on imagination, on belief. Right? Whereas it took humanity several centuries of diligent effort and submission to fact, respect to fact, to come up with the right answer. Because you don't want to put in the effort to know how things really are, you resort to beliefs. You become a storyteller. Getting it? And you even start calling it as faith. Now, belief is nonsense. Belief is not faith. And if religious systems are belief systems, let us be upfront enough, audacious enough to say, even they are nonsense. The real role of religion is to bring you to the truth, not confine you to fancy stories. And it's a warning even to those who are apparently not religious, atheists, agnostics. Just because you do not believe in God does not mean that you do not believe. Belief itself is the problem, not belief in one particular object. And if you are basing your life on beliefs, you will suffer. You will greatly suffer, because these beliefs will not conquer with facts. And when the belief bubble meets the fact needle, you know what happens. You say, I'm hurt. I'm hurt. If facts hurt you, investigate your beliefs. If facts hurt you, if life hurts you, that is a very clear sign that you are living in dreams, that you are living in stories. Otherwise, why will anything hurt you? You must discover who is it that gets hurt. Only your stories get hurt, right? You thought of something as something and it turned out something else. Why the, first of all, need to imagine something about something? Why can't you go close and explore? The ego bases itself on belief. Therefore, investigating the belief is hurtful to the ego. Think of someone 40, 50, 60 years old. That fellow has invested so much in beliefs. Time, money, energy, he has been putting into his notions, his concepts. Stuff he believes in. And once you are invested to that extent in beliefs, you become an enemy of facts. Can you see that psychologically happening? I believe that fellow is a friend. Or my culture has told me that I must trust that relative. And you have done that for 4 decades and invested yourself thoroughly. Now, even if there is solid evidence against what you have done, you will refuse to accept the evidence. You will become an enemy of facts. And if someone comes to show you the mirror, you'll slap the person and break the mirror. Belief is a very, very dangerous thing. Very dangerous thing. Whenever someone says, I believe that, you must immediately be alerted. Why do you need to believe? Tell me what you really know of. We are creatures of knowing. That's what separates us from animals, doesn't it? We have a great appetite for knowing. We can explore. Animals don't do much of that. And that's why we say our species is different. Now, if you don't live by what makes you different from animals, then you are in fact declaring that you are an animal. Even an animal can be made to believe. Even an animal, and that's how animals are trapped and hunted, right? You make them believe in something that does not exist, and then they get trapped and then they are hunted. If you are on a jungle safari, and a tiger can look at you through your car window, it would still not attack you. Why? Because the tiger believes that the entire vehicle is who you are. The tiger has no notion of someone sitting inside something else. So if he looks at your face and he looks at the entire body of the vehicle, the tiger believes that the body of the vehicle is your body. And the tiger says, this body is much bigger than mine, so I should not attack. Animals can live by beliefs. Why are you living by beliefs? And glorifying it as faith? And you'll be amazed when you ask yourself, how many of my business decisions or life decisions are actually based on knowing? We do not know. Even in deepest matters of life, even in the most crucial decisions of life, we do not know a thing. Something just happens. How are jobs taken? How are votes casted? Do people really know? How are babies born? Do people know? Does the woman know why she must get pregnant? No. It just happens. Cultural pressure and biological impulse, they combine. And you have a baby. Do people know why they believe in God? No. Just happens. And whenever something is happening just out of blind belief, it will lead to suffering, catastrophic suffering. Not just inner, even outer. The climate crisis is actually the 6th mass extinction the planet has seen. And the foundation of it is consumption. Do people know why they must consume so much? In the mall, from a window, a shirt appeals to you. Do you know why it appeals to you? And if you do not know why a shirt appeals to you, how will you know why a woman appeals to you? But you will be pulled. And you will buy the shirt. And you will say, I like it. Someone asks you why. It's a belief. And not that it cannot be known, it can be known, provided you pay attention. Provided you pay attention. And then you'll also discover how the seller uses your ignorance to sell his shirt. Another glorified name for belief is hope. And have you seen how esteemed that word is in our culture? All cultures. All cultures of the world. They let there be hope. Hope about what? How do you know what you are hoping about is in fact good for you? How do you know? Yes, hope allows you to have a good night's sleep. That's right. everything will be all right, everything will be all. How do you know what you're hoping for is actually the all right thing? Before you commit yourself to anything, ask yourself, do I really know? And all that knowing has to always start from the knower. It's not about whether that shirt is really attractive. It is about what in you gets attracted to that shirt. That shirt comes later. The knower, the experiencer comes first. You have to know yourself first. What is it inside you that gets pulled in such and such directions? Wants to believe in such and such stories? Okay? Just download the Acharya Prashant app, and there you go to the community section, and you have live testimonials streaming in at the rate of 1 every 5 minutes. I'm seeing lives change in thousands, if not millions, every day in front of my own eyes. We are doing it.
Right.
We have actually done it.
Join the community of more than 2 lakh participants on the Acharya Prashant app. Your first month is completely free. You'll get full access to Gita Mission. On the app, you will get regular live sessions, daily exclusive conversations with Acharya Prashant, access to the vibrant Gita community, wisdom exams, curated news, audiobooks, quotes, and much more. Search Acharya Prashant on Google Play Store or Apple App Store and download now.
Namaste everybody. My name is Vinuta. I'm from Bengaluru, Karnataka, and I am a classical music trainer as of now, and I teach music. And that has been my learning and passion since my childhood. And I think Acharya ji has clarified that through his teachings, that if you follow something, that you pursue and are indulged with your heart, that gives a lot of happiness and peace. So it has been a great journey since then. His teachings have got me a lot of clarity. Like, they have crushed all the beliefs that I had namelessly. Like, I didn't know why they existed. So he has challenged them like somebody who is crushing the stone, and then everything is gone. And it has been 3 years that I've been listening to Acharya ji, and it has been 2.5 years since I've joined his Gita sessions. And Gita sessions, though a lot of people have been listening to him through YouTube, but if you are coming and listening to him through his live sessions, that has a very, very different impact. I would suggest you all take that seriously and please join Gita community. We have a specific app for that, and that can be very, very helpful to guide you in your learning, in a very detailed and structured manner. So please enroll today and get the right teachings from Acharya ji. Thank you.